Make some noise for your host, Kid Copious.
What up, perps? Kid Copious, back in the bunker, Purple State Party. You know what we're doing here. Come on, we're repping America, the center, common sense. Let's kick this thing off. Yeah, feeling good. All right, jump right into it. We know what we have to start with is, why did I call this episode simply D? Well, it's not just a shot at the Democrats. It's more a shot at the fact that we have de-evolved as a country into just automatically voting for the person with the appropriate letter next to their name. If you're a Democrat, you vote for the D. If you're a Republican, you vote for the R. And everybody else can go fuck themselves. And it's not getting us anywhere, is it? I mean, let's look around. Let's be honest. Both sides have their faults. Both sides seem to be playing a safe game of just trying to get reelected and not make mistakes. And that's not how you win. I mean, back in the day, I remember the Italian national team would play a very defensively minded game. And, they would just hope for that one opportunity and maybe win 1-0 or eke out a 0-0 tie. And that's not the way to win, folks. And that's why you hear both sides talking about flipping purple states, either red or blue. Because if you were voting purple, you would be voting for the candidate who's the best qualified, who has a good plan, who has a track record of getting things done. But we don't do that. We don't do that. In LA, we saw that. The Democrats, the prominent Democrats came out and said, hey, you should vote for George Gascon because he's the man. Fuck Jackie Lacey. But Jackie Lacey had a good track record. She had a husband who overreacted to when a bunch of protesters showed up at the house. Okay. Who's to say that you or I wouldn't have done the same thing? But we went, LA went with the D. And look what we've got. We got an F. Ugh. All right, so we'll move on to some bullet points now. This was from last week. I don't understand black Republicans, and I don't understand Latino Republicans. And Thomas Sowell, very wise man. I cannot understand people who say that minorities should be represented everywhere, and yet are upset when there are blacks represented in the conservative movement. And that's the same with the same feelings exist with the Latino candidates that are Republican. Some of them are doing really well right now. And it's not a matter of, hey, if you're black, you need to vote for D. Because really, in reality, the Republicans aren't doing anything to stop black people from succeeding. They're not stopping Latino people from succeeding. But what is it that the Democrats claim? So we want voter ID, so that's anti-black. And we want a more secure border, so that's against the Latinos. But that's not what the average person of those groups actually believes. See, they're so arrogant. Both sides, really. They're so arrogant that they believe that if they just keep appealing to the extremes, they're going to get all the other votes. And we need to change that. Here's a couple about the baby formula. Need baby formula, please help. Fuck Biden. Baby formula driving to the Mexico border. Yeah, there's a bunch of baby formula down at the Mexico border. Bring back mean tweets and baby formula. Sold out. I did that. Well, the truth of the matter is, folks, that Biden had very little to do with that. A major producer of baby formula had a massive recall. They basically had to shut down their factories, start over. Unfortunately, they just spent billions on a stock buyback, so it wasn't very smooth. The Democrats are countering, saying that Trump had put in some tariffs of, I think, 17.5% on foreign-made baby formula. Again, our baby formula should be made here in America to American standards. I I mean, I would not use baby formula if that was made in China. Okay? I don't trust them. They poison dogs with fucking poisonous dog food. Come on, these people don't care. We know the Chinese government, the businesses, they don't care. So we're in this, this moment of not having baby formula. But I'm not going to pin it on either side. I think it's unfortunate that it's happening. But from what my research shows, you can still get baby formula. It just might not be at your local store. You may have to order it. I mean, yeah, times are tough for everybody. Now, times are tough. That is Biden's fault. Okay? We'll get into a little more of that later. So, we broke a record here in the United States. It's not for the world's largest pizza. It's not for the world's longest conga line. It is for the most drug overdoses ever. 2021, nearly 108,000 people. Yeah. Yeah, only 34,000 people die every year from guns, of which 23,000 are suicides. So, in reality, my math not being all that good, about 11,000 people die from guns, something like that, 12,000 homicides, something like that. We worry about guns constantly going after legal gun owners. But nowadays, we don't even arrest drug dealers. We have open-air drug markets in places like San Francisco. I'm sure it exists in LA, I just don't hear about it. What are we doing? But this is the safe game. See, go after the guns, but don't go after the drugs. Because going after the drugs is a little more complicated. It involves arresting people of color. Oh, God, you don't want to do that, right? You don't want to arrest people of color. So we can't arrest drug dealers. But we could go after legal gun owners. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, so to try to address the rise in overdoses, Biden administration has proposed a strategy that emphasizes harm reduction and increased treatment. And the author of this article says we have underused treatments that could help many people. Look, as a former drug addict, I'll tell you, man, drug addicts don't want your fucking help, okay? They just want the drugs. The drugs seize control. I don't think people really realize that drugs and alcohol, when it reaches a level of addiction, the addiction controls you. The only way to break the cycle is to force that person. Now, after you have cleaned them up, if they go back to it, that's on them, because you can't change a person. A person has to want to change, okay? But you have to break the stranglehold that the drugs or the alcohol have, or even the mental illness has on the person. You need to reset them, then give them the opportunity to make a choice. See, that's the way it works. There is no other way. It only works that way. I am a product of that, as I've said many times. I was faced with jail or rehab. I took rehab, and even when I failed, I knew what I had to do to get back on the straight and narrow. I'm going to skip that one right there. And so one of the things that really upsets me about this, the way we run politics now, only voting for the D or only voting for the R, never thinking about what's actually going on, is that there are some insane ideas out there. There are some insane priorities out there. Here in California, we're worrying about reparations. We're worrying about financing women having abortions from states that don't allow abortion, or, in anticipation of not allowing abortion. But meanwhile, our California Coastal Commission rejects plans for the Poseidon desalination plant. This is a plant that has been going on, the proposal was made 20 years ago. 20 years ago, folks. And we're now rejecting it because it could have effect on marine life. Whether it was vulnerable to sea level or the company's heavily political lobbying. There's that nasty word, lobbying. We're going to get into that a little more. But we are in the middle of a drought. We have something like a $6 billion almond industry, just almonds in agriculture. $6 billion. They require a shit ton of water. We are allowing projects to go forward where they're going to build a 40-acre lagoon. We are watering the golf courses of the rich and famous. We are watering the sides of the fucking freeways. And what are we doing to get more water? Nothing. We've shut down reservoirs because of endangered microorganisms. And now we're going to shut down a desalination plant, or not build a desalination plant. You realize that we could be pumping water out of the ocean. And this is where these liberal agendas, and if we were talking about another subject, it would be a conservative agenda, such as overturning Roe versus Wade or outlawing abortion. Don't agree with that either. But let's try to stay on the point. That's really hard for me to do, I know. But, maybe that's why you love me. Because I am just, But we're not dealing with the problems we have here. California is bragging about almost $100 billion in surplus money. But we ain't got water. We ain't got electricity. And we're focusing in on reparations. We're focusing in on you know what we're focusing in on here. All the wrong things. We're focusing in on justice reform while we have criminals just rinsing and repeating, getting out of jail and committing another crime and just stepping it up every single time. And then the most important thing, water. We can't even get a desalination plant built. And how do the Democrats counter all of these dumbass ideas? How do they counter supporting late-term abortion? That very few people support late-term abortion, okay? Very few people support defunding the police. Very few people, including Hispanics and people of all the Latino races, support an open border. But they go with it, and then what do? They turn around and they say, MAGA is the most extreme political group in recent history. Really? We're asking for lower taxes. We're asking for the police to be supported. We're supporting parents' rights. We don't want critical race theory in our schools. We want free speech. What the fuck is MAGA? Oh, again, what does MAGA stand for? Make America Great Again. That's it. That was labeled as racist. But it doesn't say make America great again by kicking out immigrants, by kicking out non-whites, by kicking out anybody who's not heterosexual. No, it just says make America great. America is made up of all of these people. America is the biggest melting pot on the face of the planet. We are not asking to roll back gay rights. We are not asking them to kick people out of the country. We are not trying to blow up buildings, such as we've seen Antifa doing. We're not trying to lock police. It's just ridiculous. But they get away with saying this kind of shit. But then again, what choice do they have? They don't have anything else. Just get so worked up, I'll knock my mic down. Yeah, Biden is calling Trump the great MAGA king. Seriously confused how this is supposed to be insulting. America first? Make America great again? That's not racist. That is asking our elected officials, who we pay a shit ton of money to make us a priority. That's it. Make America the priority, because fuck, that's where we live. Biden is the leader. They like to say the leader of the free world. Bullshit. He is the president of the United States. That's what he is. That's what he is. And that's all we're asking, is do what's right for America. I don't really give a shit about other countries. I'll tell you right now. You know why? Don't live there. But what do they continue to do? Instead of trying to deal with issues that might be hard and might fail and might make them look bad, they want to take the easy way out. But when they get called on it, what they want to do is they want to label it misinformation. And they want to act like only Republicans engage in misinformation. My brother once said to me that if I didn't believe the last election was above board, I must be a Republican. But yet, you have her over here, the new press secretary, claiming that the Georgia election was stolen. Karine Jean-Pierre. Right there. There's her tweet. Reminder, Brian Kemp stole the gubernatorial election from Georgians and Stacey Abrams. That's hilarious. She's allowed to say it without any blowback. See, the problem I have here is, fine, if she wants to believe that, that's fine. Do you have any evidence? No? Okay, then it's just your personal viewpoint. I personally believe that the mail-in ballots were very suspicious. I don't trust them, and I never will. I never will trust the last election. I never will. It doesn't matter to me anymore. It's over and done with. I don't think we need to spend another dollar or even another minute talking about it, but that's my belief. That's her belief. I am fine with her belief, but don't try to tell me that her belief is better than my belief simply because she's on the right side. Shouldn't work that way, folks. Yeah, she also, called the pro-Israeli conference severely racist, even though Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton went there. She's also in a relationship with a CNN journalist. Conflict of interest. And to take it another step further, because they want to combat misinformation and disinformation. In other words, they want to make sure there's spins on it so that they have some fighting chance in the 2022 midterms. They've appointed Nina as their disinformation czar. And she wants to use Twitter. She wants Twitter to allow users to edit other users' tweets. Look, I know they're your team. I get it. I get the liberals, the Democrats, anybody who's voting that way that might be listening to this. I understand that she's on your team. But two things to keep in mind. First of all, she's engaged in misinformation, which is what you're supposedly fighting against. And second of all, yeah, if you got it, good for you. Eventually, Republicans will be in charge. Do you want Republicans having access to editing your Twitter feed? Huh? This is the same thing with the filibuster. It's the same thing with packing the court. You pass a law, you have a short-sighted little victory that turns into a giant clusterfuck. And meanwhile, I'm just over here asking that we set aside our partisanship and vote for and support the things that make the most sense. Why? Why is it some fucking dude in his fucking studio? Somebody who's not a politician. Why do I have the answers? Why do I speak about these things the way I do? Because I don't have a vested interest. I don't give a fuck which team wins. I want the team that wins to do the best job. That's what I want. We'll see. And speaking of disinformation, just to shine a really harsh light on it, because, it's not Republicans who are running around trying to appoint, disinformation czars and censor Twitter and all of that. It wasn't Republicans who were censoring YouTube videos and Facebook posts. It wasn't. It wasn't. Okay, folks? It was very much one side, the Democrats, the liberals, censoring the conservative voice. That's what was going on. The White House comes out and says that there was no COVID vaccine when Biden took office. And he brags about the $8.3 million jobs. $3 million. 8.3 million jobs that he created. Well, we already know that most of those jobs created were people returning to work after being laid off because of COVID layoffs. But even worse was the claim that there was no COVID vaccine. Biden got his first dose while Trump was president. He got his second dose 9 days before he took office. Yeah. How many vaccines were there? About 3.5 million people, which is only like 1% of our population, was fully vaccinated. 19 million people had received at least one dose when he took office. Trump led the Operation Warp Speed. He had the vaccine before he left office. Look, I'm not going to give, who cares? Okay, so do we give points to Trump for developing it? No, not really. Not really. The pharmaceutical companies who are going to profit billions off of it, they did the work. Trump did what any president would do, which was, streamline it and expedite it and all that shit. But here comes Biden trying to take credit. And you're fine with this because he's on your side. And we're mad about it because he's not on our side. No, we are mad about it because it's a lie. It's a lie coming from the White House, who is appointing a misinformation czar. Ridiculous. Another lie from them. Oil companies. Oil companies are not responsible for the price of oil. Gas station operators set the retail prices. And it's based on all kinds of things, such as delivery charges, which is tied to the cost of fuel to begin with. Because fuel is a speculative product, and Biden was signaling that he was going to make it more expensive, therefore it becomes more expensive, and therefore delivery vehicles and delivery services are going to charge more. Look at this. 1% of service stations are owned by the companies that actually produce it. Oil producers are in no position. And again, related article, White House keeps misleading public on oil gas leasing. They're lying. And they're fine with it because whoever votes for a D is going to accept the lie. This is what it really looks like under Biden. Food, electricity, gas, used cars, through the roof, stock market down, food shortages, vanishing 401ks, transitory inflation. Then he calls it the best economic recovery ever. No, they're lying. They are pumping out so much disinformation while at the same time saying that they're combating disinformation. That's the part that's sickening. Not because they have a D next to their name. Because this is no way to run a country. Carter, feckless president. Inflation through the roof. Carter on steroids. Boom. That's what we're seeing. We're not seeing any sort of controls. We're not seeing any sort of movement. We're seeing a bunch of projections. We're seeing a bunch of what ifs. We're seeing a bunch of, gee, wouldn't it be great if? We're seeing a lot of, it's really Trump's fault. That's what we're seeing. So we're going to shift gears really quick. Talk about Rick Caruso here. He's running for LA mayor. But, it speaks again to the failures of these liberal policies. 67% of the unhoused population suffer substance abuse or mental health issues. We need to get serious about this. Right now, Gavin Newsom's shutting prisons. We need more prisons. We need to put people in prison. I am not one. I don't like to complain without a solution. So I think people, and we could set a bar here. When people reach a certain level, we're going to lock them up for 14 days. We're going to charge them, but if they complete the program, we're going to drop the charges. Okay, we're not going to give them a criminal record. We need to give these people a pause on their mental health issues and their drug abuse issues and try to fix them. That's what the state owes these people. Now, that's going to be tough. That's going to be hard. Okay? And liberals don't like hard work. They want like platitudes. It's hard work. I used to spend parts of my summer chopping down and processing dead trees out of the forest so my grandparents could have heat for the winter. It was hard work. I walked probably close to 3-5 miles a day, climbing over stuff, dodging forklifts, standing in the hot sun while wearing a black shirt. I sweat and I sweat and I sweat. It's hard work. Life is hard. And that's all I'm asking for out of my politicians. Are you going to do hard work? Caruso seems like he'll do hard work. Bass, no, she won't. I believe in the LA dream, a city free from the street homelessness, corruption, and crime that continue to plague us. That's why Caruso is running for mayor. It's hard work. Those things require hard work and dedication and common sense and good planning. And it's not always going to sound good. It's not always going to look pretty. But that's what has to be done. We can't continue on like this, folks. Right now, we have politicians who are putting the so-called needs of drug addicts, mentally ill people, drug dealers, criminals, gangs, rapists, child molesters. They're putting their needs ahead of the people who go to work every day, man, and pay taxes. How long are we going to take that for? California's flush with all this tech money, right? But the votes come from the people on the streets. If the people who actually worked for a living stop simply voting for a D, we could change things here in California. Imagine what would happen if the only way the government could could accomplish anything is if they placated both sides and both sides had equal votes. And hard choices would have to be made. But if you're going to operate on the basis that stopping drug dealers disproportionately affects black and brown people, so you're not going to arrest anybody, how's that ever going to work? How's that ever going to work? White people are criminals too. Lock them all up. If they're fucking selling drugs, lock them up. Today in LA, I just read about 2 maintenance workers who died from fentanyl exposure when they went to clean out an apartment. Are we getting serious about that? No. We're worrying about how many rounds I can have in my magazine. That's what we're worried about. Me. Keep my rifle locked up. Hardly ever comes out, basically just for cleaning. I have it basically because I'm a Minuteman, okay? And I believe that America should always be ready to fight for America. But you're going to worry about my rifle while people are out there distributing fentanyl across the city. Does that make any sense? No. More lies from the Democrats that get covered up here. Levine, Assistant Health Secretary Rachel Levine. There's no argument about gender-affirming care. I know we've covered this before, but some new stuff has come out. There's a complete lack of high-quality long-term data. Boom. There you go. That these medical interventions actually help. Dr. Levine is arrogantly announcing that all pediatricians, all physicians, and therapists agree with her position. It's not true. The Swedes do not agree. The French do not agree. The Australians do not agree. They have been dealing with this issue or allowing people to transition a lot longer than we have. They've seen the writing on the wall. There's not enough evidence. This is a scary substance. And more to the point, what the Australians bring up here, emphasize the necessity of receiving a proper mental health evaluation. But here, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. We don't want to label somebody who's transgender as crazy. So we're not gonna scratch the surface. We're just gonna green light it all the way along. Green light, green light, green light. And that's what we do with the homeless, and that's what we do with the drug dealers. We just green light it. It's a safer play. We are the people who can make that an unsafe play. Just greenlighting shit because you don't want to accidentally offend people? No. I want people held accountable. If a kid grows up believing that they are a member of, the opposite sex, I'm fine with that, but let's get it right. Let's not just fill them with pills and promise surgeries and things like that if that's not really the issue. If it is the issue, great, I don't mind. The only time I mind about transitional therapy and all of that is when it comes to prisoners because, quite frankly, I don't think they have the right to it. I don't care. They're criminals. Okay? Maybe on a case-by-case basis, you might be able to prove me wrong in some cases. But like the motherfucker we're about to talk about, I don't give a fuck what he's dealing with. Okay? I'm worried about people out here trying to raise families, pay their bills, do the right thing. Hannah fucking Tubbs. Not Hannah. After he got arrested, he became a she. Right. Exploitable situations, folks. He is James. All right. Let's be honest. All right. This isn't about the entirety of the community. This is about one motherfucker. One motherfucker, two motherfucker, three. This person assaulted a 10-year-old girl in a Denny's bathroom, locked her in a stall, grabbed her by the throat, and sexually assaulted her. And RDA Gascon gives him nothing. He then transitioned after being arrested and was sent to a juvenile facility, a female juvenile facility, because he claimed to be a girl, and we're not going to put adults on trial. It doesn't matter that he's like 26 now, but the motherfucker is now wanted in connection to a robbery. Yeah. In connection to a robbery. Which is not surprising, because this motherfucker had a very long criminal record before Gascon allowed him to be sentenced to minimum time in a juvenile facility. Arrests, convictions for murder, robbery, assault with a deadly weapon, domestic violence, and even a prior sexual assault of a 4-year-old. So, what the fuck was this guy doing out in the first place? Yeah, I'm really confused by all this. But a spokesperson for George Gascon assures us that after he or she, oh, that's stupid, Tubbs, okay? After Tubbs is released from Kern County, where Tubbs is being held for questioning in a robbery murder, he will be returned to LA to finish out Tubbs' sentence in his juvenile facility. And a spokesperson for Gascon says that LA officials will be notified if Tubbs is released from custody in Kern County. District Attorney George Gascon is committed to protecting the public and especially our children. What? At what point can you say that George Gascon gives a rat's ass about the public or our children? He lets gang members off. He lets violent criminals who use guns slide without gun enhancements. He won't go after a child molester, a child rapist. He won't go after them. But yeah, he cares about us. No, he doesn't. He cares about George Gascon. And that's it. He has armed guards. He has cops who follow him everywhere. He's protected. He doesn't have to give two shits about the crazy homeless people outside the building. Okay? I'm going to a show tonight near Echo Park at the Echo. What is my number one concern? Getting shivved by a homeless person after leaving the show. What's your concerns when you go out? Do you worry about them crazy people? Huh? What about your kids when they're out? But Gascon cares about us? No, he doesn't. He got elected because the Democratic overlords told you to vote for Gascon and his crazy fucking policies. Lobbyists concerned over rising cost of politicians. We saw earlier how environmental lobbyists, stopped the desalination plant. And lobbyists are really, when you get right down to it, okay, it's not Trump's fault, it's not Biden's fault, as much as it is lobbyists' fault. A great example of that is the hybrid car. We're trying to move away from our dependence on fossil fuels. It is bad for the planet. Great. Electric car batteries are bad for the planet. In fact, in some cases, they're worse for the planet. Sad truth, but that's what it is. Look at the European studies. A diesel-powered car actually came out on top as the cleanest. Because remember, you got to mine all the materials to make the car batteries, and that is very destructive and poisons the water. But why aren't we driving hybrids that are a little bit of the gas, a little bit of the electric. It doesn't run on a giant battery. It doesn't use as much resources. But I'll tell you why. Because it uses less gas. So the oil lobby's not behind it. You don't need to charge it. So the electrical lobby or, Southern California Edison or whoever your power company is, their lobby doesn't see any interest in it because it doesn't make any money. It doesn't make anybody money. And therein lies the clue that sort of exposes what's going on. If we're concerned about our planet and we have something like hybrids, which would cut our emissions, but there's no profitability and there's no monetization, taxes, stuff like that could really be reaped, they put it to the side. So do they care about climate change or do they care about what the lobbyists say? Lobbyists have one interest, and that is the interest that they're paid to have an interest in. And politicians get their wheels greased by these people, and we end up in a shit show. That's why we can't get things done. Because there's always going to be a lobby standing in the way. Lobbies do not rely on common sense. They rely on money. Dollar bills, y'all. That's what they worry about. They don't worry about the cause and effect. People are realizing how crazy and loony the left really sounds. Yeah. And here's a few examples. According to the left, harassing Supreme Court justices at their homes makes you a good American, but showing up to a school board meeting makes you a terrorist. See? Look, raise your concerns, folks. That's how I say it. But you're not allowed to try to influence the Supreme Court. That is strictly against the law. Whereas the school board, well, that's a different story. We're supposed to show up there. We're supposed to raise our concerns. That's why they have school board meetings. Pro-lifers don't care about babies after they're born, says person who just destroyed Free Pregnancy Resource Center. It's what they did. They're too stupid to realize that that had nothing to do with abortion, and so they ransacked it. Good work. FBI sternly warns mob at Justice Kavanaugh's home to stay away from school board member's house next door. That may be satire, but that is very true. Yeah, there they are. The radical abortion activists gather outside the Supreme Court house. They have a problem right now over on the left, and it's because the old abortion chant of my body, my choice was sort of diluted into oblivion by the whole vaccination thing. So they don't really know which way to go with this. Sometimes you think they're almost as confused as fucking Brandon. But here's a few, just to keep, a few more things here that have been said. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Wealthy kids, black kids, Asian kids, no, I really mean it, but think how we think about it. Whatever. Janet Yellen, just a few days ago. In many cases, abortions are of teenage women, particularly low income and often black, who aren't in a position to be able to care for children, have unexpected pregnancies, and it deprives them of their ability often to continue their education to later participate in the workforce. Okay. So we should keep abortion so black girls can abort their babies and work. Yeah, they do say some wackadoodle things, man. They do say some wackadoodle things. Now, I support the freedom, of choice, okay? But I'm going to look at that Biden one, man. That's racism. They label even people as myself as racist, transphobic, because we try to raise concerns about things. I'm not trying to stop people from transitioning. I just want to make sure that we're not harming our children in the process. I just want to make sure. I just want to check. I don't want to stop. I just want to check. But this racist motherfucker runs around and talks about how MAGA, Make America Great Again, is racist. America First is racist. Standing up to CRT is racist. Calling out BLM for corruption is racist. After a while, people see through it, and that's what's happening nowadays. For example, they said inflation went down. Yes, but the consumer price index went up. Again, as people see this, are they going to change their minds? Because we're getting to that point where we need to start realizing what we're seeing and acting upon it. So, whoops. I'll let you read over this one. This is Bronco. It's hot out here, man. I'm really thirsty. So, the Democrats proposed a bill to protect abortion rights. But in that bill, they expanded late-term abortions. They expanded who pays for it. They obliterated other state laws that nobody had a problem with. State laws that, whatever, banned late-term abortion or whatever, different things like that. But they made it radical. They wanted to force the Catholic Church to perform abortions. So they were really going down this crazy-ass route. And the reason they went down that crazy-ass route is so that people like Manchin and the Republicans would have to vote against it. That's how cynical these people have become. They didn't try to preserve Roe versus Wade. They tried to expand it. They tried to make it cuckoo, much like they did with some of their other budgetary things, where they put crazy shit in there just to get the Republicans to vote against it, and now they could say, the Republicans voted against it. But meanwhile, somebody on their side, I forgot I believe it was two ladies, had authored a bill that basically just codified Roe versus Wade. Early trimester abortions are guaranteed across America. Okay, great. But they didn't want that. They wanted to make the Republicans look bad. That was their primary goal. Not to codify Roe versus Wade. Not to do the right thing. They made a bill that they knew was doomed to failure, and they did it just to try to overcome some of these things. The economy, crime, inflation, the education, the border. Look at all of that shit that they fucked up. All of that shit's wrong. And right now, as the donkey says, look, abortion is at risk. Huh. I mean, let's just say that abortion was removed. Women would, use contraceptive methods. They probably wouldn't have random sex with random dudes. Maybe you could get that forced morality onto them. But let's just say that the women made the choices and they had to find a way to live without abortion being an option, right? Good. Okay. What about all the other things? What about all the other things? We as a country could overcome abortion being outlawed. We could. Okay? And it wouldn't affect all of us. All right? We could. And I'm not saying we should. I'm very much pro-choice, folks. Very much pro-choice. All right? I'm 100%. I don't even waffle on it. All right? But we can't overcome some of these other things. There are people out there that are barely getting by. Barely getting by. And they are busting their asses to barely get by. And this administration isn't doing shit to help them. They're going to help the drug addicts on the streets. But they're not going to help the average American worker. The average American. Instead, they're going to try to sell you that abortion is the number one issue. That's it. Abortion, Ukraine. Those are the most important things we need to worry about. Just live with the food shortages. Live with the ever-increasing cost of living in this country, let alone this fucking state of California. Jesus criminy. No, live without that because we must protect the rights to abortion and Ukraine. And that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. They just did it again with trying to send $40 billion to Ukraine. They just want these easy little victories. They want to get up there and say, hey, we tried to save Ukraine. hey, we're fighting for abortion rights. But what else are you doing? What else are you doing? Open borders? Open air drug markets? Look at the carnage that you're seeing in Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle. Look at that kind of carnage just in those 3 cities. That's what the liberals care about. They care about the easy things. Think about how easy that is to just allow people to do drugs in public. You can't accidentally arrest too many black people. You can't accidentally trample on somebody's rights. If the police aren't arresting people, the police will never look bad. That's an easy answer. The politicians will look good. Yeah, I didn't make any mistakes. Yeah, but you didn't make any positives either. Yes, but I didn't make any negatives. Let's move on to the best of the week here with baby formula shortages. Pete Buttigieg forced to chest feed. Fuck that. I'm getting tired of things like chest feed. It's breastfeed. Women give birth and breastfeed. If that woman would like to identify as a man, great. I support him. I do. But biologically and scientifically, still a woman. We need to at least be courageous enough to accept both things. That a woman could be a man and still remain a woman. It's easy. Because that's what it is. Problem solved. Biden asked each illegal immigrant to please bring 1 can of baby formula. That's good. Not really to the point. Mormons come to local man's door, but he can't remember if they're the ones with Dianetics, midichlorians, or the New World Translation. Oh, man. I was a member of that church for a little while. Blair White coming strong. If you see a bulge in a conservative woman's pants, it's a gun. If you see a bulge in a liberal woman's pants, it's a penis. Okay. She's going salty, but, I guess she has the right to say that. Yeah. See, and this is, again, Mayorkas over here. We have operational control. Look at that. Look at the cartels just with their human trafficking, fentanyl, disease, crime, and death. This entire administration is based on propaganda, misinformation, disinformation, and they want to regulate what we say. Yeah, that's fucking great, man. Keep it up because people are going to see it. Got to bid farewell to her, our favorite memeable woman, our favorite memeable leprechaun. Psaki says parents unable to obtain baby formula should just feed their babies a margarita and put them in a kickboxing class. Well, that's a callback, man. Woo! I'm going to miss her because I have a feeling the next one is just going to be just milquetoast, really. Yeah. And just watch with the new one. Just get out. Every time people call her out on anything, it's going to be labeled as racist because that's all they got left. And when that runs dry, their party is going to die. Starving American babies disguise themselves as Ukrainian soldiers in hope of getting $40 billion in federal aid. That is awesome. This is exactly what America last looks like. And it's not her. It's what we're seeing around us, man. It's fucking ridiculous, folks. We have to stop just simply voting for our party. We have to have the courage. I mean, I already know that I do. But you out there, we have to have the courage to vote for common sense. Even if it's a D. I mean, I'll vote for a Democrat if they've really got a sound plan and I really can believe in them. I don't know where that person is right now. I mean, I don't know if Manchin, Sinema, Galbert, Tulsi, I don't know if they're going to run as independents, but I hope they do because I don't ever want to punch another ballot for a D or an R. I don't. They've had their run, and it's a failure. Both sides are failing right now, okay? The Democrats far more than the Republicans. You can argue that amongst yourselves. Put it down below. Nobody ever does. White House press corps beginning to suspect Psaki isn't ever going to circle back to their questions. Yeah, she's out of there. That's really too bad. That is really too bad. Yeah, she was a lot of fun. But back to this really quick, just to end the whole thing here. America first is not racist. I've said that before. America first is and should be the guiding principle of every politician. If you are a governor, then it should be California or your state first. If you are a mayor, it should be your city first. It shouldn't be drug dealers, and it shouldn't be mentally ill people living on the streets causing chaos, and it shouldn't be criminals, and it shouldn't be illegal immigrants. Those people should be last in line. You have an entire nation of hardworking, dedicated, patriotic Americans, and you have managed to box them into two little boxes and then ignore them. We will no longer be ignored, folks. We outnumber them. We outnumber the extremists. We outnumber them. Keep that in mind. We won the American Revolution and we were outnumbered. We now have the numbers. And we need to start looking for independent candidates. We need to start putting our votes on people with plans, with people with some form of American spirit. Not people who simply want to get in there, make as much money as they can, and get reelected. I don't give a fuck about those people. I don't care about those people. All right? We need to look for those people. There's a handful of them out there right now. But we need to fight back now. Because at this rate, there is no tomorrow. Peace, y'all. Copious out.